How you sequence your tasks varies by project. In some cases, all tasks are assigned a date when they're created. In many other cases, tasks depend on other tasks. For ongoing projects, tasks recur at regular intervals. And sometimes tasks have no clear deadlines or dependencies, in which case they need a method of prioritization. Few Notion workspaces effectively accommodate all of these needs: scheduling, dependency, recurrence, and automated prioritization. So drawing from popular methodologies like getting things done and the Eisenhower matrix, Bulletproof Task Management integrates these needs within a sophisticated, streamlined system that's manageable for every user. It's a core part of my comprehensive Bulletproof workspace, which you'll find at notion.vip/bulletproof. But it integrates seamlessly into any Notion workspace, and you can develop it from scratch or duplicate the fully developed template, which you'll find linked within the description for this video. So if you're familiar with any of my resources, you likely know that my foremost recommendation for Notion is to centralize information within related master databases, then create filtered views of that information within contextual dashboards. And like the Bulletproof workspace, this Bulletproof Task Management system upholds that principle. At its core is a master tasks database, which centralizes all of the tasks in your workspace. The template also includes a handful of complementary databases to demonstrate the various contexts in which you can manage your tasks. Within that master tasks database, an intelligent status property is sort of a mission control for the system. It's a formula property that populates automatically according to various conditions. And while this may seem overly complex, it's actually a method of simplification. Among other benefits, it allows the system to accommodate many needs without requiring that all properties be populated for each task. It allows you to filter and sort your tasks in various helpful ways, and it surfaces tasks needing attention rather than letting them get overlooked and further delayed. So each task will have one of 7 possible statuses. 4 are healthy statuses, and the other 3 indicate that the task needs attention. If the status is complete, the task is non-recurring and fully completed. Scheduled means the task is assigned a date that is not yet passed. A task awaiting dependency depends on another task that remains uncompleted. And then someday means the task is safely logged to be completed in the future. If a task fails to meet those criteria for good health, it will be deemed a needs attention task and surface to the top of most views. Overdue indicates that a task's assigned date has already passed. Reschedule means a recurring task has been completed and needs rescheduling. And needs date or dependency means the task is assigned neither a date nor a dependency. This status can also be just needs date, in which case the assigned dependency has already been completed. And these criteria are hierarchical. So for example, a completed non-recurring task will ignore a due date. Its status will be complete rather than scheduled or overdue. And a task whose dependency is an uncompleted someday task will inherit that someday status. For an even more useful snapshot of a task, the statuses can include secondary notes I call flags. If a task has a primary status other than awaiting dependency, but it's also assigned an uncompleted dependency, it will have the awaiting dependency flag. Recurring tasks include their frequency as a flag, and tasks can have both the awaiting dependency and frequency flags. Sometimes a project's tasks have no deadlines or dependencies to dictate a sequence, and that's where the prioritizer comes in. As you'll see, the prioritizer is a view of tasks within the project template, and it's adapted from the Eisenhower matrix, which prioritizes tasks based on their urgency and importance. With the prioritizer, you can assign each task a value of high, medium, or low for 4 properties: urgency, impact, which is Marie Poulin's adaptation of the Eisenhower matrix, workload, which encourages you to knock out the quicker tasks, and enjoyment, which is my adaptation of the eat the frog approach, where you knock out the least desirable task first. And populating these properties for a project's unscheduled and independent tasks will calculate their priorities, then sort them accordingly. And that allows you to assign them sequential dates. So let's take a look at all the properties that make up the tasks database. And there are a lot, but please remember that they're intended to accommodate various types of scheduling while requiring only a few inputs for each task. And for this demo, I've segmented them into a few views that you don't need and you won't find in the template. So in this first demo view, we have the properties of the tasks database that you'll interact with most frequently. And remember, you'll rarely access the tasks database directly. Instead, you'll access your tasks through filtered views within contextual dashboards and primarily within projects and within your personal dashboards. So, of course, here our first property is that almighty status, and this is a formula property that's calculated based on a variety of conditions to give you a little bit of a snapshot for each task. And of course, those statuses have secondary notes I call flags, as discussed. And then the title property within the tasks database is going to be the task itself. So, mow the lawn or schedule a meeting with Carl. So they'll be a lot longer than these kind of short little alphabetical demo tasks, but you can get a sense of how that works here. And then we have a person property for the person responsible for completing the task. Now, this person property is going to be useful within a team workspace where you have a manager or a project manager assigning the tasks and scheduling the tasks. But if you're using your workspace independently, then you can probably forego this property and eliminate it from any filters that reference it. So what this allows teams to do is to have independent dashboards that are filtered by this responsible property. But of course, if you're using the workspace independently, you're not going to need to filter tasks to show only those that are yours because they're all going to be yours. So then we have two date properties. We have a DUE date property and a DO date property. And this is borrowed from my good friend August Bradley, a fellow Notion pro. And in a team workspace where you have that manager assigning tasks, that manager is probably going to assign a deadline, which is the latest time that the task can be completed. But the person responsible for completing the task is probably going to do that work in advance of the deadline. So they can use the DO date property to schedule when the actual work will be done for their own personal reference and to help sort tasks within their personal dashboards. Now, again, if you're using your workspace independently and not with a team, then you can probably ditch this DUE date property and only use the DO date property. However, before you do that, you're going to want to update the formulas and the filters and the sorting rules that reference the DUE date property so that they will all reference the DO date property. So the status properties are going to reference the DUE date. So you'll want to be sure to update that before deleting it. But in my own personal workspace, my workspace for work and my workspace for life, I use just a single DO date and it works exceedingly well. So moving on, we have a relation property for the task's dependency. Now, this relation is going to relate to the exact same tasks database. It's a self-referencing relation. So within it, for each task, if it's dependent on the completion of another task, you can just click into it and then choose another task from the same database to serve as the dependency. And that, of course, is going to impact the calculated value for the status, as well as the flags included with that status. So then we have a select property for recurring tasks. You can specify how frequently they should recur, and that's also going to inform the status property, so you'll know just how to reschedule it once it's completed. Now, this time slot property is another select property, and this, like the DO date, is for the person who's responsible for completing the task. Within their own personal dashboard, they'll have a view of today's tasks. So all of the tasks that they've scheduled that they're going to do today will appear within that view. And that view, as you'll see, is going to be a board that's grouped by this time slot property. So you can assign a time slot within the day for each task and view them within this grouped board, so you'll be able to nicely distribute your tasks throughout the day and make sure that you'll be able to complete them in an efficient way. And so the last property within this kind of primary properties view is going to be our complete property. It's a checkbox. You check it off when the task is finally completed, and that's going to filter it out of most views with the status of complete if it's not recurring. If it is recurring, it will update the status to reschedule, which of course is going to include that frequency flag, and you will see it in the necessary places so that you will be sure to reschedule it. So moving on from our primary tasks, let's take a look at some of the other related databases. So remember, the task database is related to itself in order to choose a dependency for the tasks that have them. But in most productivity methodologies, a task is going to be sort of a child of a project. Every project is basically going to be comprised of tasks, and to complete the project, you just work your way through the tasks. So that's the idea within the Bulletproof workspace and within this Bulletproof task management system. Every task is part of a project. So the tasks database is related to the projects database, and I haven't included the full projects database from the Bulletproof workspace within this task-specific template, but I have included a stripped-down version of it to demonstrate how you can view a filtered version of your tasks within each project. Within each project, you'll see that you have a view of your tasks database, and it only shows the tasks that are related to that project. And that's typically how you'll be interacting and managing your tasks. So when you create a task within that filtered view, it's going to be automatically related to that project. You're not going to have to create your tasks within this bulk view and then choose a project. It's highly streamlined. And within a lot of productivity methodologies, there's even a higher level of that hierarchy. So just as tasks are sort of children of projects, projects are going to be children of what I call buckets. And if you're familiar with the para method, projects are the children of areas. And in some other cases, these kind of high level categories are referred to as spaces. So that's exactly what there are. They're high level categories for all of the content within your workspace or whatever you're organizing, and that allows you to create really useful filtered views. Now, because every task is tied to a project and every project is tied to a bucket, we're not going to have to manually choose the bucket for each task. Instead, we use this roll-up property, which is going to pull in the bucket that's associated with the selected project. So that keeps all of your information really consistent and accurate, and it eliminates redundant work. So the Bulletproof workspace also has a master database for all meetings and events. And within one of the templates for your meetings, there is a list of tasks, a list of action items. As they emerge throughout the meeting, you can actually add tasks from within that meeting view, and it will be adding them to this master tasks database. And because it uses a self-referencing filter, any tasks that are added within that view are going to be automatically related to that meeting or event. So that's a really nice way to connect all of your information and manage action items that result from meetings. So we're going to take a look at what that looks like inside the template momentarily. So those are the additional related databases. Let's look at the prioritizer. So I already went through the properties associated with the prioritizer and how that works, but here you can kind of see it in action. So again, you'll really be conducting this exercise within your projects. You'll be looking at all of a project's unscheduled and independent tasks, and within that view, you can assign a high, medium, or low value for each of these 4 properties: urgency, impact, workload, and enjoyment. And you can do that for each task. And then this priority property, which is a formula, is going to automatically calculate the priority for each task based on those inputs, and it's going to sort them by priority. So then you can just really quickly apply sequential dates to the tasks. So, and then we have a couple of invisible properties. So these are properties that you'll never engage with, and you can never include them within any views, but some of the other formula properties are going to reference them. So the status ID is really the brain of the status property. It does the bulk of the calculation in advance, evaluating a variety of different factors in order to return an integer, which is an ID that corresponds with a particular status. So then the actual status property that displays the interpretation of the ID can just basically translate it and then consider a few additional factors to calculate the flags for this status. And then this roll up here, dependency status, this is just the status ID for the task's dependency. So I've filtered this demo view to show only the tasks that have dependencies. So you can see these 4 here are pulling in the status IDs for their dependencies. So those are all the properties within the tasks database. And remember, you'll never view them all simultaneously, and you'll very rarely access the tasks database directly. But it does include a couple of views in case you do want to dive into your tasks in bulk. So let's look at those. The first is going to be the all tasks view, which is going to display all of your tasks, and it's going to display them within a table. And I've included just the primary properties that may be helpful if you are accessing your tasks in bulk. And so the second view is going to be a board grouped by frequency, and it's going to display only your recurring tasks. So if at any given time you want a full snapshot of all of the recurring tasks that you or your full team is working with, then you can pop over to this recurring tasks board and view them all nicely organized by their frequency. So as I've said, you're primarily going to be working with your tasks within contextual views, and particularly within their projects. So I have a stripped down version of the projects database from the Bulletproof workspace, and within it, I've only included the filtered task list just to show exactly how it integrates within this system. So the first project we can take a look at here is going to be a demonstration of scheduled tasks. So if we open up project A, we can scroll down and see our task pipeline. So the task pipeline is the default view of tasks within the project template, and it's going to display all of your tasks except for your completed tasks. Now, it will display completed tasks if they need to be rescheduled, if they're recurring, because that obviously needs attention. So it's going to sort your tasks by status, and it's going to surface, it's going to bring to the top those that require attention. And below that, it will include your scheduled tasks and those of healthy statuses. So you can see here that we have our status property, the actual task, the person responsible, and the DUE date, the due date within an individual workspace. This would display the DO date and not include the responsible. We can also modify the dependency of any task, and we'll be taking a closer look at dependencies here momentarily. We've included the frequency, which we can reference, or we can assign, and of course that frequency is included as a flag here within this task. And then we have that complete property, which we can check off when the task is completed. So the next view of tasks within the project template is going to be another little recurring board. So this is going to display, just like that recurring board within the master tasks database, this is going to display all of the recurring tasks for the project. And it's going to display the title of the tasks, the person responsible, and then the status of the task, including its flag. So this is, of course, grouped by frequency, which will always appear as a flag as well. So this sample project just has one recurring task, but you can imagine that ongoing projects might have a variety of recurring tasks. So the next view of tasks within the projects template is going to be the prioritizer. So this is just like the one that we looked at as a sample, but this also includes the due date. And again, this DUE date is intended for teams, but this could be a DO date if this was just an individual workspace. So what we can do here is the date would be unassigned, and we could assign these various high, medium, and low values to these various properties to generate the priority automatically. This is going to be sorted by that priority, and that's when we can go in and assign sequential due dates. And then the last view of tasks within the project template is just going to be the same as that task pipeline, but it's going to include the completed tasks for reference as well. So that is the project template and the way that tasks are displayed within it. And this is where you should be managing your tasks primarily. If you create a task within any of these filtered views, they're going to be automatically related to this project. And so this is a much more manageable way of creating those relations and everything else associated with your tasks rather than going into your master tasks database to do it. So I mentioned that meetings and events database, and I have another stripped down version of that as well. So in the actual Bulletproof workspace, this meetings and events database includes a lot more within its template, but I just have one example here to demonstrate the way that tasks would work within it. So you can see here that we have a filtered view of our tasks database within this meeting. So if we add any tasks to this filter list as they emerge over the course of the meeting, then they're going to be related automatically to this meeting for reference moving forward. And similar to our task pipeline within our project, we can utilize the various properties associated with these tasks in order to schedule them and carry them out most effectively. And of course, all along, based on all of the values that you add to each task, the status will be calculating and recalculating to reflect the status of the task. So that is the only view of tasks within the meeting. It's really all you need. And if you'd like, as you create these tasks, you can also assign them a project. So they'll appear not only in the meetings that they're related to, but also the projects that they're related to. So those are two examples of displaying filtered views of tasks within other databases. But you'll also have dashboards of other types in your workspace. And in the Bulletproof workspace, there are personalized dashboards, and then there are team or company dashboards. So let's take a look at the personalized one. And just like those other database templates, this personalized dashboard typically includes a lot more information, but I've included only the tasks for this demonstration. So for this individual, the default view is going to be a planner view. And this planner view obviously is a table, and it's going to display all of the tasks that are assigned to this individual. Now remember, if you're using your workspace individually, you're not going to need to filter for the assignee. You're not even going to need that assignee property because all of the tasks are going to be yours. But in this case, this database is filtered to show only the tasks where the person responsible is me. So whoever's signed in, this is going to show their task. So that makes it really easy to duplicate this dashboard and use it for any individual team member. Now, it's also filtered to show only the tasks that have a due date within the upcoming month. And once again, if you're in an individual workspace, you can change that reference from DUE date to DO date. So this is also going to sort the individual's tasks by status, just like we saw in the project template. And that will allow this individual to address those needing attention first. And that could be changes that the individual could make, or the individual may need to consult a manager to do it. But either way, this is going to surface it to be addressed promptly. And then the healthy statuses will appear below those needing attention. So what this individual can do is take the assigned tasks and use the DO date to schedule when the actual work will be done. So if this individual decides that she is going to do these handful of tasks today, and I'm just arbitrarily selecting the top ones, then we have a today view. And what this today view does, as I mentioned previously, is it groups each of today's tasks by the time frame property. And then the individual can drag the cards from the no time slot. I said time frame, I meant time slot. No time slot property into these individual time slots so that the tasks can be distributed evenly throughout the day in a way that's going to allow the individual to complete them in an efficient way. So that is the purpose of that time slot property. And then, of course, as the individual completes the task, she can check them off and they'll be filtered out of the view. So that is how individuals can manage their own tasks. Let's look at the organization dashboard. So the organization dashboard, just like all of these, is going to include a lot more information typically, but I'm only displaying the filtered tasks within it. And so for the organization, we have two views. The default view is going to show all of the tasks across all projects that need attention. These are the ones with the unhealthy statuses. So we can see here that these have various versions of unhealthy statuses and need to be addressed. And this is a table that makes them all easy to manage and to gather the information you need quickly. And then the other view is just going to show all the tasks that are due within the upcoming week. And so within a team workspace, this could be the DUE dates that are coming up in the next week, or in a personal workspace, you could use a version of this where the DO dates are within the upcoming week, or whatever time frame you prefer to use for this view. So if you are using your workspace independently, you can create kind of a blended version of these filtered task lists that you see within these dashboards to suit your own personal preferences. So that is the Bulletproof Task Management System, which accommodates a variety of needs in a streamlined and sophisticated way that's easy for anyone to manage. And you can build it from scratch within your own workspace, or you can duplicate the template. And either way, you can find me on Twitter at William Nutt if you happen to hit any roadblocks.